this is Daniela with a new movie review for you. And today is all about the 1964 Disney family adventure movie Emil and the Detectives. And this was particularly interesting for me personally because, as you might be able to tell from my harsh, adorable accent, I am from Germany. And this film is actually based on a story that I grew up with, like every other German kid, a novel by Erich Kästner called Emil und die Detektive. I had no idea that Disney had turned that into a movie, so I was very curious and interested to see what they had done with it. So the story is about 10-year-old Emil. Emil comes from a little German country town and is put on a bus to travel to Berlin to visit his grandmother. And just before the departure, his mum puts an envelope in his chest pocket and securing it with a safety pin, and in the envelope is a lot of money, 400 Deutsche Mark. So Emil is super concerned that he might lose the money, but what happens? A crook, Mr. Grundeis, has actually observed the scene of the money being put in his chest pocket. He manages to sit next to Emil, and when Emil dozes off, he steals the money. When Emil wakes up in Berlin, he realizes that his money is gone and the sleazy, creepy guy next to him is also gone. Must have been him. He spots him outside, jumps out of the bus and decides to get his money back. Talking to the police doesn't help. So Emil decides he has to get his money back by himself. He accepts the help of a local boy called Gustav, who is the head of a gang, and they call themselves the Detectives. And the first thing that they find out as they follow Mr. Grundeis is that Grundeis is not a simple pickpocket, but he is actually part of a criminal gang who are planning to rob a bank. So, the director took some freedom to change and add some events to this film, and it is exactly those deviations from the original story that warrant some parental guidance, because there are some violent and scary scenes. For example, when Emil gets captured by the bad guys, is threatened with a gun, has a gunshot next to his head, then he is trapped in a tunnel, and there are some explosions and he's fearing for his life, and the tunnel is filling up with water, and it's all a bit intense and scary. Nevertheless, did I enjoy the Disney take on my childhood memory? Yes, I actually did. And I think even though the story is 90 years old and the film is over 55 years old, I think it's well worth a watch for a modern Australian family audience. And in fact, I think that the oldness of the story and the film actually creates a flair of nostalgia for the adults and novelty for the kids. For example, to see how a 10-year-old kid is traveling all across the country and how a group of boys are just roaming the city and all by themselves and very independent, which was actually commonplace back then. Because of the scary and violent scenes and also a lack of interest, I would rate this film not suitable for children under 6, and I would recommend some parental guidance for kids aged 6 and 7. You can watch Emil and the Detectives on Disney+, and for more reviews visit the Children and the Media website.